little honeydews, and welcome to Sippin N Bitchin, where the drinks are icy and the book talk is spicy. We're your main bitches. I'm Sam.
And I'm Steph. My drink is not icy, but the book is definitely spicy. What? My drink isn't icy. It's been sitting out for like 3 hours.
I was thinking, I was like trying to decide. I was like, it's kind of icy, and then I was like, no, that's the bubbles.
That's sparkling, I think, at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
By the way,
um,
Alani,
not
please
sponsored.
sponsor us.
Yeah, I was gonna say not sponsored, but we are, one day.
This is episode 3, or technically,
Two.
of asking you to. Well, I'm kind of the introduction. This
Okay.
is our third attempt at getting sponsored.
Third. Read them and weep, y'all. Third. But we made it to book 2 in the From Blood and Ash series, A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. Yes. Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. I was thinking if we go to the next series next, but we don't. It's
No.
the next book after. So we're good. What a ride this book was.
Oh, I love
10
this
out of
book.
10. All right. Remember last episode where I was like, book 1, a lot of people say it's slow, but you get into whatever. All right, you pick up in book 2. This book, reading it.
Breaks aren't breaking.
Yeah, me and Sam were talking offline before we started recording, and we were just like, yeah, reading this book, we kept making comments and like gasping and like, oh, I love this book so much, or like we were freaking out, and it's so great to like reread it again and just fall in love with these characters all over. And then like when you know what happens, you're just like, huh, interesting.
Or oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also funny because me and Sam are reading it on the same. So we both read it on Kindle app, and she has all of them like purchased. So I'm reading them and we're like co-highlighting. And she was a little further than me when I was doing my reread. And every few pages, I see like a little blue tab that means like she wrote a note. And I click onto it and I'm like, Samantha, next one. For fuck's sake, Samantha. Just like going through the whole book. Quality notes made me laugh.
Nothing there for you, honestly.
Oh, who else is reading the I mean, I guess there are other people that will borrow this at some point and read it, but it's fine. They'll get there.
It was
Whatever.
really hard when doing the show notes for this versus like
To
the
not spoil.
highlights. Yeah, like I would see notes and I'm like, I can't add this note into the show notes because that's a for me knowing what happens thing. And
Yeah.
it was hard. It was so hard.
I will say same. So the first episode 1, I did the show notes. This episode, Sam did the show notes. And I think as we progress through and we learn more about these characters, it'll be such like a full circle moment. But for now, me and her are like, we can't say this. We can't even react to it. We have to just sit here and pretend like we don't know what's happening. And I'm just gonna cry.
Like I would write about certain characters and I'd be like, I have to act like I read this for the first time and write my initial thoughts of this character and not what I know now.
Yeah, I was really like, let me just forget. Let me just mind wipe myself. But anyway, let's jump right in.
Yeah.
This book was bigger than the first book, obviously, but I think no, The Crown of Gilded Bones is bigger, but it's over 500
Yeah.
pages, give or take. I want to say it's over 500 pages for sure, but I don't think it's quite 600 pages. A really fast read, considering I started this book like the Wednesday or Thursday before we decided we were going to record, and we usually record
Yeah.
on the weekends. And I read this book in a couple days. Given I am a little faster reader,
Yeah.
people in my life are like, "Are you even reading the words?" And I'm like, "Yes, trust me, I am. I
Trust
really
me,
am."
guys, I thought that too, but then she comes and says stuff. I'm like, yeah, she's reading the words. Like she ain't missing a thing.
But yeah, so book 2 picks right back up where book 1 ended. So at the end of book 1, Castile's all like, we're going home to get married. And then chapter 1, we're going home to get married.
Yep. It just starts up right where it left off. Like no time passed, nothing, same instance. And that's what I love. There's nothing you're missing out on what's going
No,
on.
and that leads me to think like, and I don't think this is true, but I wasn't privy to like her Facebook group. Jennifer Armentrout has the Facebook group and everything that she like types in and everything.
Mhm.
But I wonder if like at some point it was like a culmination where she just kept writing the stories and then broke it up, or if she consciously like made this decision to like, hey, I'm gonna end this book here and then pick it right back up, or if it was like a continuous cycle.
Save that
Curious.
question for,
For our
I'm
dream.
predicting this for our dream that she will be on this show one day
Eh,
and we can
Check.
ask her.
Sounds great to me. Um, it's really interesting the dynamic of Poppy and Castile at this point because it's they meet, he's Hawk, she falls for him, still Hawk, he betrays her. She's
He's
like,
Castile.
he's Castile, but like he's still Hawk, but is he Hawk? It's like this
Mhm.
whole torn between two lovers acting like a fool,
Yeah. And I
but
think
like
that's
not.
really what's like fucking with her mind is that she's she's seeing him as two separate people. Like she's comparing how he acts now to how he acted before she found out.
In her defense, though, Homeboy
Oh,
straight
I
up
would,
lied.
yeah, I would be doing it too. Like I'm just, yeah,
But I will say the shifts that happens in terms of which I guess when you're reading this book for the first time, you're just like, are his intentions true? Or is this just like a ploy to get to what he wants? But
mm-hmm,
when the people around him start to treat her poorly and threaten her life and try to attack her and all this stuff, and he is sending a message as a leader, but also like in some semblance trying to prove that he cares about her. Like I think
yeah,
that's the beauty of how this is written and like their relationship is like at the end of the day, like you really don't know if this is genuine. You're reading this
right,
book, we're going through it, and it's just like, is he like his brother's number one priority?
right,
That's what it is. But also, wait, it's like when you're doing a once over and then a twice over, and you're like, wait, but maybe he did look back at me. Maybe he does want me. Maybe he does love me, kind of thing.
right,
And then you're
yeah.
like, that's like a whole internal battle struggle, and I just felt for her so much.
Like she said, she was like, literally, I have it highlighted. She said, the guard who pledged to protect me with his sword and his life wasn't real, nor was the man who had seen me for who I was and not just what I was. Hawk Flynn was nothing more than a figment of fantasy, just like those little girl dreams had been. And I remember like reading the first time, I was like, that's so heartbreaking, but is it true? And that's what I think is really hard is she found someone that saw her for her, and then boom, no, he's also just using me like the Ascended were.
But also, he's proving her like everything that she's been taught throughout her whole life.
Mm-hmm.
He's proving her wrong, like how everything that she knows to be true isn't true.
Right.
And I think the lines blur, obviously as the book progresses, like the lines blur and she's just like, yeah, man, like all these things that I knew, they're full of shit and this isn't the vibe and maybe he's not such a bad guy. Like maybe this is,
Yeah.
they're one and the same, it's all real, whatever the case may be. But there isn't, I mean, it's not without pushback.
Yeah.
Because on Castile's end, all of his friends and all of his followers and all of his people are just like, you had this plan to kidnap this girl and bargain for your brother. And now you're like, nah, you're gonna marry
Mm-hmm.
her. Like these
Yeah.
people are not gonna accept her. Like, what are you
And they
doing?
showed that right off the bat when the book starts up, by some of them are standing up being like, are we supposed to believe this is true? Homeboy got a little too vicious with his words though, and but yeah, they were like pushing back and like saying like, we're not gonna follow this bitch, like she's the maiden, like what are we gonna do? And attacked like who she was, and Castile like had none of that and straight up like tore this man's heart out
What
for
I
it.
thought was beautiful of this whole situation is Like they're like second guessing him, and he's like, "What matters is that I choose her, and that is all that matters."
Mhm.
And then um Landel is all, "You do this and it'll be the downfall of our kingdom. I will not choose that scarred faced bitch." She flinches, and Castile's like, "Nah, bruh.
Yep.
This ain't gonna fly here, dude." I think it's insane how you can be so adamant about something, but love just makes you so just love overrules everything at that point.
Yeah.
And he was like, "It's fine to second guess me and all like my intentions, but you threatened her. I will not forget that."
Yeah. And that would be so confusing to me as Poppy too. Or like I'm thinking this guy is just wanting to use me, but here he was just like literally killing this person to protect me in honor of me. And like homegirl hasn't had a break. Like she's learning that she's Atlantia and the Ascended are bad and all this, and then her lover betrays her, and it's like I'm surprised her panic attack came later in the book and not right here, honestly. Like,
Honestly, same. And then we go into chapter 2. So Landel like insults her. She flinches, and then Castile comes in, and like I don't know how I wouldn't be confused, but he comes in and he goes, "There's no side of you that is not as beautiful as the other half. Not a single inch isn't stunning."
mm-hmm.
That was true the first time I said it to you, and it is still the truth today and tomorrow.
And she believed him too.
Because
Like,
he's never shown
yeah,
like any disgust, any like shame, any sort of anything toward her, at
from
least
the
based off of
beginning,
her
he's been in
looks. Like
awe
from
of her.
he's just been intrigued by her always.
Yeah,
He's never. Just love that.
yeah,
Oh, is this where we? Oh yeah, we meet Alistair. Chapter
yep,
2. Mm.
yep. He's
Let me
sussy.
tell you. Let me tell you about Alistair. I read this book, and it's funny because as the book I don't think it was in this chapter, but as the book progresses, she talks to Alistair, and then she talks to Castile, and she's just like, "It's interesting that Alistair wants this, especially since he's related to that person," kind of thing. And like
Mm-hmm.
she can't even, whether she realizes it or not, she's literally like suggesting he's sussy. And I'm just
Yeah,
like, "Girl, where is this going? What is happening?" Like, I don't
yeah,
like it's very in the kingdom's pocket, because at the end of the day, he is for Atlantia and always
right. He's a
you
politician.
know, exactly. So it's one of those things where it's just like, does he really give a shit about Castile, or really is he just trying to do like be in good favor with his parents kind of vibe?
Right.
So,
And I feel like his and Castile's relationship confused me so much
me
in the
too.
beginning. Cause like Castile's like, oh, he's like a second father to me. But then he's also like making sure he knows who's in charge, like getting mad at him. Like it really confused me at the beginning. I was like, wait, do you trust him or not? Because one minute you're like, I trust him with my life. The next minute you're threatening his life.
Oh,
Like,
something we also highlighted. The breath I had taken got stuck as my gaze flew back to the man. His voice, it sounded so familiar to me. What I mean?
yeah.
What does that
Yeah.
mean, Poppy? Like, what?
And
Who you hearing?
for a while, it reminded her of Victor too. Like him talking reminded
Yeah.
her a lot of Victor.
So then it's like, is their relationship going to repair, and like he'll be like a father figure to Poppy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I mean? It's a very confusing situation,
Yeah, because he
especially while they're
seems to be
building this
there
up,
on her side. Because later on,
offering
he'll
her
be
an
like,
escape.
"Is yeah?" He's like, "Is this what you want? If not, I'll make sure he never finds you."
Hmm.
Alistair's interesting. So yeah, we meet
Yeah.
Alistair, who's an interesting character throughout this
Do we
journey.
get a picture of him in Visions? I don't think we do.
I don't remember a picture. No.
Huh. I wish we had a photo. I kind of wish I had a face to the name, I think is what it is, so I could picture it.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is going to be a theme throughout this whole conversation, this whole episode. I love my man, Kieran.
Oh yes.
So they're
Uh,
setting it up, and they're essentially learning that she's, you know, half Atlantean and whatever the case may be. And Kieran goes, "You smell of death."
And he like, okay, what was interesting about that is that like it was a sudden thing. Like they were just walking and all of a sudden he like stopped and was like, wait, you smell different. And I'm like, honey, what are you going with that? Like, what do you mean?
It's like, I mean, they didn't have sex, right? I don't think it was even like an arousal. I don't think it was like it was just, "You smell like death." I'm
I
like,
just like
honey.
how when he said she smelled like, she's like, if you say I smell like Castile again, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Like
Yeah,
they're
honest.
like back and forth throughout the whole thing. It's just like those are the parts people are like, oh, what are you laughing at? What are you watching? And I'm just like, this book. Like it's usually
The
Kieran or
banter.
Delano or Emil or any of them. I'm just like, this book. I love them.
And we just take a moment to appreciate Delano and all his glory. Okay, not a spoiler. Love Delano. Just, I think throughout the whole series, I just love, like, he is a standout character, even from
Mhm.
Flesh and Fire, like, just a standout character. And not that Kieran's not, you know, the back and forth banter is great,
Right.
but it's very nice for me to see us, for lack of a better term, a supporting character really making an impact, I think, because like with, I'm trying to think of another book series we could talk about. Like with Throne Glass series, for example, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point in deeper dive. But like some of the characters I feel like were supporting,
Mhm.
but I didn't get enough of them, I think.
Yeah. It was broken
And
up a lot.
like you get your main people and I respect that and that's cool, but I feel like with the series you get a lot more context. And
Yeah.
I really appreciated that. And it wasn't so much where you get lost in the sauce or you just, you know, it's too dense and you can't read it. It was very much a nice little balance. And then it's
Yeah.
spread out throughout the books with each supporting character, which I enjoyed.
He's a very consistent character
Yes.
and like just over time it just gets better. And I love that we're gonna just get to see that and talk about that because I love him. I will say I don't care if people are like, oh, I didn't know if he'd stay. We love him. And if you don't respectfully, we don't need you here. We're
There are other characters that you'll be like, "I like this character." And we'll be
yeah.
like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we do like this character."
But
Ah,
yeah, so she smells of death.
yeah, and then chapter 3, she's dumb.
She's like, bye.
She runs away.
With nothing
Okay.
but like a cloak.
She got nothing like she butter knife, I think. It was a meat knife, a butter
The
knife,
meat
something
knife,
stupid.
yeah.
And I'm like, "Girl, what?" Like even Castile's like, what did you think you were going to accomplish by doing this?"
Mm-hmm.
Like mood, really, actually. And I think that goes into the next chapter too, because then they tussle, sort
Yeah.
of, sort of tussle, sexually tussle, not
I
really
was gonna say
sexually
it gets
tussle,
from
but
violent to nice and intense real quick.
you know,
Uh
their chemistry is through the roof,
yeah.
and
And then the
that's
Craven attack.
yes,
And there's a
where we
big
learn
point.
more.
Yeah, there's a big point about the Craven here. I'd never seen the Craven so decayed. Their skulls were bare of hair or only patchy. Clumpy
Blech.
strings remained. Rib cages were all but exposed through the ragged clothing they wore. They were so emaciated, so withered away that I couldn't help but feel pity for the mortals they used to be, and the rotting corpses they become. Like that's
It's
true
giving
zombie if I ever heard of it.
zombies.
Yeah.
Didn't plan that, not in the show notes. We just were on the same page. And then we also
Usually
learned
are.
that a Craven's bite does not curse an Atlantean, but in enough numbers, and I suppose depending on if they manage to sever our heads, they could kill us.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't turn them into zombies, but like they could low-key kill them if they tried hard enough. So
Yeah.
Atlanteans just kind of sound OP as heck.
Yeah. Cut off the head or that's basically it, really. Like I love though that when the Craven attack, like they're able to just pause everything, and Castile being Castile just says, "Make me feel incompetent and kill more than me, princess." Like I love that. I love that he's not one to be like, go hide in the trees. It's like, nah, here, you know how to defend yourself. Let's get these.
No, and that's like a theme throughout the book though too, is that he gives her, and I know like in the beginning it's very much of she still feels like a prisoner. She's being held captive. He doesn't, he's not much better than them, the Ascended. Uh,
Yeah.
but in these little moments until we get further into the book, it's very much like, I know you can take care of yourself. We're in this pickle. I'm trusting you enough to take care of yourself, but also low key, like, don't run away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I trust you to protect my life as well as yours. And I think
Yeah.
that there's some level of, not relief, but some level of inner battle with Poppy. Like, I don't think she realizes it until later in the book because she does say it at some point, but it's like, he's not the same as them. He does give me some semblance of freedom.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it because I think we both highlighted it, or at least you highlighted the part where I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like little moments like these where I don't think she realizes that she has more freedom than she was
Right.
anticipating.
Like, and even in this scenario, when she escapes, he's not mad at her for trying to run away. He's mad at her
She
for
wasn't
not being more
prepared.
prepared to take care of herself. And that screams a lot too, because she even says, I'll try to escape again. He just says, I figured as much. I'm not going to stop fighting you. I wouldn't want you to. Like, he never says, no, you won't, or I'll stop you. He's like, that's who you are. I expect it. I'm just pissed off that you didn't take your own life into consideration when you did this.
And then in the next in chapter 5, they like return back and Poppy goes, "Do you expect a thank you?" And he goes, "It would be nice. Dad, I'll get one though." Just like, at least you have self-awareness that you're like
Right?
not, he ain't gonna get it, but oh.
Oh, okay.
And then we get background. So then we're back to her trying to, the delineation between Hawk and Castile.
Mm-hmm.
And Castile gives background. He says in Atlantia, it is tradition to be given a second name, a middle one, so to speak. It's given in honor of a cherished family member or friend, usually picked by the mother, and it is a well guarded secret only shared outside of the family with the closest of friends and with those who hold a special place in one's life. My mother chose my middle name in honor of her brother. His name was Hawkthorne. In my head, that's Hawthorne, but Hawkthorne.
Right?
We're gonna go with it. My full name is Castile Hawkthorne Denier. When I was a small child, my mother took to calling me an abbreviated form of that name, and so did my brother. They and only they had ever known me as Hawk, he said, until you.
Yeah.
I just, it's humanizing, which is
Yeah.
funny considering this is a very non-human situation and world,
Yeah.
but
And it literally jumps back into that in the next chapter. And she's like, why did you tell me about that? Like, why'd you tell me your name? Why does it matter? And he literally said, because knowing that Hawk is part of my name, part of me, matters to you. I am Hawk and I am Castile. I'm not two separate people, no matter how badly you want to believe that.
and I think this is, I want to say this is the shift of when she's like the gears are turning in her brain. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
this is real. Maybe I'm not delusional. But then it's like but I'm pissed that he betrayed me and hurt me and all this stuff. But
I feel like Poppy is a lot like us in the way where she gets petty real quick and she wants to hold on to something, and she's just like, because literally she's like, I know you're the same. You're the one who lied to me from the beginning and you're holding me captive now. Like she's still in a little bit of denial of like they're the same, but what does that mean? So I'm still gonna like push and attack and like just draw away from that.
yeah, and then she starts asking him questions. It's like they're getting to know each other on a more real level.
Mhm.
And then they get to talking about the people that have died and like his role in that. And they start talking about Victor, and he goes, and Victor, those ladies at the right, I didn't kill them, but you were right. Those who support me acted on their own, but they did so inflamed by my words, urged by my lead. So their blood is on my hands too. I should have taken ownership of that from the first moment. So he's taking responsibility, and he's not understanding his betrayal, but he's
Yeah.
kind of trying to bridge the gap and like show her that he understands the magnitude of his actions, but also that his care for her is not not fake. Like it's still there. He recognizes he fucked up, but also he's
Yeah.
just like, this is what I like, how it had to be done essentially. This was the plan all along kind of vibe.
Yeah. And keeping on that thought and like going to the end of the chapter, she goes back to asking that question because you can tell she's frustrated and like trying to figure out. And it's more like why did you tell me? It's like, why did you have to tell me that? Like, because it's
Yeah.
confusing. And I love this line. He says, because you needed to know that not everything was a lie. And I just love that. That he's still like, I know you
Oh,
hate me, but I want you to know that it wasn't fake for me.
and also so he can compel. One of his powers is he has compulsion. And Poppy asks, like, then why haven't you just made me go along with whatever it is you wish for
Oh
me to
yeah.
do? And he goes, because I may be a monster, but I'm not that kind of monster, Poppy. Mind you,
Yeah.
throughout all this, he's still calling her Poppy.
Mhm.
I think that that's important detail to note, that throughout this whole thing, he's still calling her princess. He's still calling her Poppy. He
Yep.
rarely calls her by her full name. I think only when he's pissed, which mood.
Yeah, right.
I think everyone
Like
kind of does that.
like a lot of people don't call her that, not where they're at. Everyone's calling her like even Kieran's calling her Penelope at this point. Cause
Correct.
and she's like, why do you call me by my full name? And he's like, because nicknames are reserved for like close friends, and I don't think we're friends, are we? Like, because at that point they weren't. And I respect him for that, being like, I'm not gonna give a familiar name to you when we're still at odds with each other. But yeah, him doing the familiar stuff, Poppy, Princess, it does come up later when he stops calling her that at one point, that she realized, wait a minute, I don't like this. Like, I give him
Mood.
shit for this, but now he's not calling me it. What's like, is something wrong? Like, that comes up later. But yeah, it is important to her.
Oh, yeah, and we also learn how vampires are made.
Yes, we do.
Um,
Buggers.
yeah, they are fed upon by other vampires, brought to the brink of death by blood loss, and blood then fed blood from an Atlantean. Huh. Sometimes the change is immediate, other times they can appear dead for hours, but they wake up and they are hungry. As controllable as a craven, it often takes several ascended to subdue them. Even after being fed, they are consumed by hunger. I've heard that it can take weeks, sometimes months, for a newly made vampire to control his or her thirst. So you got some zombie land, and you got some vampire Edward Cullens.
Yeah, that's the interesting about thing about this. Like every vampire story, there's something different. Like either you just suck them dry and they become vampires. A bite is what does it. You suck them dry and then you really paused that out of the worst moment there. You you suck all their blood out of their body, and then you give them your blood. I don't think I've ever come across one where you bring them to the brink of death and then have to give them someone
Transfuse them.
else's blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a new take for sure.
And how many times do you think they failed to make Craven because they went past the brink of death? Like I think in the other series it mentions like you have to like get to like the last drop of blood. And I'm like, how do you know when to stop? Like that's
I
what's
think
going on
you
in my
hear
head.
the I think you can feel the pulse
Hmm.
or something. I think it has to do with like your heart rate or your heartbeat in my brain, because
No,
I
that
know how
makes
vampires
sense.
work.
My brain just goes very literal with the whole like one drop of blood left thing, and that's what I'm imagining. Like it gets very literal. Like no, there's two drops of blood. You gotta get a little like. But anyways, yeah. But yeah, so vampires fun.
What a chapter this has been. Honestly, it's only chapter 6, and like so much context has been given and like relationship building has been
Mhm.
kind of set forth.
I like how she says he was both the villain and the hero, the monster and the monster slayer. And I think that's a good thing. Like it shows it's not black and white. You can be the hero, but also be a monster in your own way as well. Like you do the things you have to do in order
Oh,
to
100%.
accomplish your needs.
Yeah, it really highlights like her inner struggles with trying to figure out like how to feel about this whole situation.
Hmm.
Sorry, I also just realized like him saying like if you essentially want some benefits to this
Yeah, I
whole
was just
arrangement,
looking at
you
that.
just let me know. You just let me know.
I like how she's like, "I'll never request your services," and he's like, "Services? That sounds so dirty."
Oh my
Oh,
gosh. Their banter is so
it's the
funny.
pride of the book, honestly.
It really is. Oh, okay. So then we move into chapter 7, where her
Things get
nightmares,
creepy.
yeah, her nightmares are starting to be more vivid. And we learn what a pretty little flower, what a pretty poppy, pick it and watch it bleed, not so pretty any longer, Poppy. The whole nursery rhyme gone wrong. It's like the Grimm
Hmm.
brothers.
It's something that gets brought up a lot in the next few books. Is this
Yeah, I
rhyme?
realize. So it's funny you mentioned that is because when I was rereading it, I was like, do we resolve this in this book? And we don't
I was
resolve it in
thinking
this
about that
book.
too. Nope. I don't think it's been resolved at all yet. Like, I mean, we'll have to talk about this after so I can say what I mean. But I feel like with the information we get and so many pieces, when we
It's not
learn who
completely
different
resolved.
people, yeah, I don't
Oh,
think
that's
we
fair.
actually learned where this rhyme came from yet.
Oh, that's fair. Okay,
Yeah.
that actually tracks.
Yeah.
But so we learn about that, and then Castile tells her about his nightmares, and they're doing a whole nightmare trauma bond thing,
Yeah, I know. It's
which
so
I love that for
sweet.
them. We love a trauma bond. Oh, well, then I read the show notes, and it says we love a man who was tortured and is now broken but strong. That was the direction in which I was going in, and I want to note that I did
We're
not
the
even
same
read
person.
this.
It's okay. But in this trauma bond, we learn a lot more about Castile's background and what happened to him
Correct.
when he was captured and how what they would do to him. Like they would keep him on the brink of starvation because an Atlantean needs blood in order to not go tipping over the edge and basically become an Atlantean version of Craven. They're so like blood hungry that it's an illness of the mind, he calls it later, that you can't really come back from it if you get pushed too far. And they would just like keep him on the brink of that and do horrible, unspeakable things. Um,
What I really liked from this whole interaction of them getting to know each other more is that she apologizes and he's like, I don't want your pity. Like this isn't on you.
yeah,
And she says, I don't pity you, and I know I'm not responsible for what happened to you, and neither are you, even if your actions led to your capture. I still feel horrible for what was done to you. And I think that that is a general theme in life. If you lose somebody or if there's like some sort of something that happens that's like an unfortunate circumstance, a lot of us default to going, I'm sorry. And I think
me.
many people, mm, many people not misconstrue it, but it's kind of one of those things where, like, for me, I don't particularly like people saying I'm sorry to me because it
Sorry.
doesn't fix the situation. Doesn't fix the situation. It doesn't it's like I understand you're trying to console me, but it's not a situation that needs
Right.
it's just not beneficial. So I like in this scenario, it's just like I understand that like I can't change this and this is not my fault and but it's also not necessarily your fault. And
Yeah.
I feel bad that this happened to you because it's a shitty thing.
Right. And
Period.
she could have easily said she was sorry because feels somewhat responsible considering she knows the queen and she was close to the queen. So on some level, I think any human would have been like, somehow this is my fault just being associated with them.
Yeah.
And but she doesn't take that. She takes the responsibility from both of them. And anyone who has trauma in their life know it's really hard to see it that way of like, did I do something? Should I have done something differently? what did I do? Like it gets very internal. And she was just like, it's not anything any of us did. And it's not something that should have happened. It's horrible. And I think that's more comforting than an I'm sorry. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Oh, but yeah.
Bitch ass
Oh,
whores.
true. True. We move into the next. Let's just kind of breeze through these next few chapters where things start to pick
Yeah.
up. Um, our our BFF Delano, thought he heard Poppy calling to him, but she was internally speaking. So it was one of those things where like, was it an internal conversation or did she say that
Mm-hmm.
out loud or like what's the tea here? Kieran being
Kieran being
Kieran.
Kieran.
To no one's surprise, I knew that that's where you were gonna go with this. Um, he is so, and it goes beyond Cass, and like I guess later in the book, like you'll like we see the relationship build, but he very much is in tune with what people need or what is needed of a situation, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that well, it makes me love him even more. But Kieran,
Well, we kind of learned that that's Kieran's family. Like him and his father both have a way of just kind of knowing things. And they believe that there is a seer or a changeling in their line. But yeah,
yes,
he's very in tune to things.
so we learn about the bloodlines.
Yes.
See, if there were, Cass would not be our prince. The last of their line was gone by the end of the war. Um, and
This is talking
Poppy
about the
asks,
deities.
correct. Um, Poppy asks questions and he says they were deities, Penelope, the ones who created the elemental Atlanteans. A drop of their blood is a drop from the gods. They would usurp any bloodline that sat on the throne. Um, they ruled Atlantia since the dawn of time up until the last of them died. They weren't just a bloodline, they were Atlantia.
Yep.
Wild.
So getting some
Wild
more
how
background
important.
there. Um Chapter 9, we learn about Kieran's woven senses to Poppy's
Ay.
dismay.
Yep, that's
Uh
awkward. Oh, we also are introduced to Emil in chapter 8.
oh yes,
Hmm.
yes, yes.
Hmm.
Who will forever think of Kieran as a giant oaf, thanks to Poppy.
Correct. But that's okay. We're okay with this.
Yep.
Um, oh yes.
Mostly, yeah, the
Uh,
arousal stuff.
the arousal stuff. Poppy flips the bird. We love that she knows
Yes.
how to flip the bird. Um,
She gets
oh,
complimented by Castile.
shocker. You can read that beautiful line. It was a beautiful line.
Oh, chapter 10. They finally come to an understanding.
Do they come to an understanding? Listen, when he says you're beautiful when you're quiet and somber, but when you laugh, you rival the sunrise over the Skotos Mountains, I'd come
I
to
mean,
an agreement.
how could you not like make a compromise with him at that point, man?
You're not
Um,
wrong.
but yeah, they kind of talk and he kind of gets her to see that through the marriage, it's one safer for her because it gives her protection as a princess that no one can supposedly harm her, aren't supposed to
Mm,
harm her.
supposedly.
Um, yeah. And she makes a deal with him that she'll help him, but they have to try to get to Ian so she can see for herself if he's a monster or not.
Correct. And I
Yeah.
think this is, I mean, I don't want to say this is a start because she's been advocating for herself for a little bit now,
Mhm.
but I think this is the first real time where she's just like, this is what I want.
Yeah.
If this is how you want this to go, this is what I need from you.
Yeah.
I wish I could, but anyway. I highlighted, so they're talking about their marriage proposal agreement situation, and she goes, so this marriage will not be real because she's like, after they free their brothers, whatever,
They'll
she'll
go
be
the
free.
separate ways. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, do what she wants to do. And he goes, it's as real as you believe anything about me is. And I just thought that that was kind of poetic in terms of like, he knows his feelings, his beliefs, his reality.
Hmm.
It's just she can paint the picture herself and decide
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I liked that a lot. Ooh, and the ring. Can't forget.
The ring. She's like, how can we make this believable if we don't have a ring? He's like, oh, that's a good point. And then she's just like, I want like the biggest ring you can find. Like it has to go through the door before me. It's so big. Like she's a woman. What can we say?
I
She
mean,
knows what she wants.
I will say that I'm glad I don't have a heavy ring because my finger would probably fall off. It's fine.
Chapter 11, we come in contact with Alistair again.
Ugh,
And he's like,
sorry.
oh, you're like a fierce speaking to me. And she's like, I know what you're capable of. Doesn't mean I fear you, though. Like,
I loved that line.
yeah.
It's very much like a fuck you without saying fuck you. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, okay, you're a big bad wolf. Like, and
Yeah. You think,
come
is
at me,
that,
bro.
does that give you, I mean, she shows that with her actions, like Landel and like anyone that comes against her, not Landel, but like the guy she fights in the first book when he kills Rylan. And like
Jericho.
she's never ever feared them. It's always just like what they can do to her.
Yeah.
And so now she's just speaking it with her words like, dude, I've fought you guys already. Like, you're not
Who's afraid
that
of the big bad
scary.
wolf? Not me.
Yeah, you're not the monster under my bed. Oh.
Yeah. He's he's something. And then we go into chapter 12, and Poppy realizes that she's the soon-to-be queen because she doesn't know how royalty works, evidently.
Yeah.
And that cracks me up. And she yet again advocates for herself,
Yep.
which I love. And then Castile also is just like, just so you know, Penelope does not need protection. She's more than capable of handling things herself, but that is my future you are walking away with. Guard her well. Your life depends on it.
Yep. Oh, and that's where Alistair gives her the yo, you want a bolt? I can get
Ugh,
you out of here. But
I'm
it's very
sorry.
interesting when he's talking to her. Um,
As someone who is very much for Atlantia and the best for Atlantia, I didn't buy this at all. It was very much like you want to escape, and I'm just like, I don't believe you. Like, what makes you different from these other people other than like you're not trying to kill me right now? You know what I mean?
right.
It was very much like, thanks for this offer, but are you genuine about it? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to do what's best for your people and your,
Right.
land kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I always thought that this was like, I'm glad it didn't go in the direction in which she accepted this escape offer, but I
Oh,
was
me
just like,
too. I was worried about that. I was like, it's my first time reading it. I thought, oh, that's kind of sweet of him to like be worried about her. But then he's like, I'll make sure you are somewhere neither the Ascended nor Castile can ever reach you. And I'm like, that's a far reach. Like the Ascended, like, where could he possibly take her to do that? So that was what was weird to me. I was just like, what? Like, he never tells her where. He's just like, oh, I can make sure no one finds you. But yeah, I was
yeah.
the same way. I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
And then he was like kind of setting up how like Castile is a son to him, and then he was like, he actually could have been my son.
Oh
We're like
yeah, that
introduced
truth
to like the
bomb.
whole, yeah, then we're like introduced to the fact that um introduced to Shay and like how she was her daughter and how they were together, blah 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 blah.
That was like a reoccurring theme that really threw me off is like he always seemed to never be telling her stuff to reassure her about Atlantia, but it was always stuff that could cause a fight between her and Castile.
Oh,
Like telling
100%.
him about Shea, I don't know how to say that.
Shay.
Shay, I don't listen, my mind says it differently every time.
That's okay.
Telling her about we'll get to that later, but the joining and about like the other truth bomb of like his expectations when he gets back home. Like it was never stuff to be like, it's okay, we'll figure this out. It was always like a big bomb after another and seeming to me to scare her or like make her want to leave. And that was what was confusing to me. I was like, you're a father figure. I just thought he'd be more like, let me just help you. More like how
Yeah.
Jasper was.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
Jasper. What a Jasper. We're moving to the next chapter where Karen, Poppy always asking questions. Karen's all like, "You have questions?" I'm real shocked, but honestly, mood. Um, but then
Little
Castile
shocky
just like
shock.
thanks her for choosing him. I
I
loved that. That
know.
was a cute little moment. We learn a little bit more about bloodlines. The shock from touching Poppy, Kieran touching Poppy, which Delano felt at first, right?
I don't think he felt a shock. No, I tried to mark down every time like something like that happened. Delana was the thinking she was calling out to him and she wasn't.
So who felt a
Um,
shock the first in the first book? I want to, or at the beginning of this book, somebody felt a shock,
I think
and then Vanetta felt the shock.
Vanetta felt the shock. I think I forgot to put it, but I think at the beginning of the book, it was like, was this when she went to heal people? No, that wasn't it. I don't remember.
I don't remember
But
either.
yeah,
Anyway, she's
he
starting to
described it
lightning
like,
shock these people.
yeah, being struck by lightning.
Ugh. And then we learn about our buddy, our buddies. We also learn about Wyvern.
Yeah, which really shocked me how they described it because I was like, oh, wyvern, it's gonna be like a wyvern, just different. And no, it's like a cat.
Yeah,
So,
Wyvern was Wyvern? I don't know, whichever. Was an Atlantean bloodline that was killed off during the war. They too were of two worlds, mortal and animal, like the Wolven and the Changelings, except the Wyvern could take the form of cats larger than those that roam the caves in the wastelands. And then they also introduced Draken. A Draken was a powerful bloodline, one able to sprout wings as wide as a horse and talons as sharp as a blade. They could fly, some could even breathe fire like a dragon.
mm-hmm.
And essentially they're like I thought dragons were myths and every myth is rooted in fact, and I think that that's pretty funny.
If they could fly and
Many
breathe fire, why aren't they here?
Yeah, and legends state that many of the Draken didn't die, that they slumber with the gods or protect their resting place. And I mm, love, love, just
I
love.
did not pay close enough attention to that, let me say, in the first read.
No, I did not. I will say a lot of the background we get in these first couple books, I guess 3 books, because there's 3, and then we get into Flesh and Fire. Um, you don't know when each thing is gonna pop up.
Yeah.
So
You're like,
it's
what's
very
important?
much
What's not?
info dump. Yeah, it's a very
Yeah.
info dump situation. Us going through it is very much like we just want to discuss these terms with you. And just know at some point in the series, as we discussed, like they will become a bigger part for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Okay.
But yeah,
And
so they're going
then
through that. And then the Ascended arrive,
hmm,
always ruining things.
yeah, well, shocker.
We get the
Um,
satisfaction of learning what it looks like when an Ascended dies, though. Like they're basically stone. They crack and fissure and then turn to dust.
it's like what's that movie? I'm thinking of a movie, but I can't think of where they turn to stone and then they is that not what Medusa does? Is that the same
But
thing?
I mean, they don't turn into dust, but they turn to. I'm thinking very much like I'm going like Rapunzel with her with Gotham, Gothel, Gothel,
Gothel?
not Gotham, Gothel.
Are we Batman?
I'm Batman. Um, and how when they cut her hair, she turns to dust, kind of thing. That's what I imagine.
Okay, we went really 2
Oh,
different
you know what
directions.
it is? It's like Twilight when they're killing the vampires and they're like squeeze them and they start to crack and stuff in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, the Ascended are trash. We hate the Ascended, and
Yep.
to no one's surprise,
She goes with
Lord
them because they're holding a kid
Chaney.
hostage.
Yeah, and then the kid ends up dying anyway, so really they're trash.
Yep. The vampire bites her, and this is not like a Castile bite. This one is like pain.
This is like Vampire Bite.
Mm-hmm. And she goes crazy, just stabbing him repeatedly with her little meat knife.
Honestly, I would do that
I would
too.
do the same. Yeah. Yeah.
And then we go into oh no. Wait, this is important. In 15, after this whole situation with Lord Cheney, she said, any lingering doubt I had about everything Castillo had claimed nearly vanished when I saw the chamber. But now there was none. This was what the Ascended truly looked like, and I had never seen anything more terrifying.
We didn't even cover the chamber. Did we not highlight anything about that chamber? Essentially, there's this area underground. Castile's getting tired of her saying, "Oh, you're just like you're no better than the Ascended," and he takes her underground to like this memorial, this tomb, basically, of just all the names that the Ascended had killed over the thousands of years, hundreds of years. And that was a
Yeah.
very like eye waking moment for her. So
And
that's
I
what the
think that's
chamber
where
she's
it
talking about.
snapped. Yeah, and that's where
Yeah.
it like clicked. Also, we did not this was very disrespectful, but Elijah,
Hmm.
we love
The
Elijah.
the only thing that he has in his bloodline is piss, but we love him.
I love him, and I love he like gives no fucks about like just talking. It's just like I'm gonna just say
Yeah,
what I'm
almost
gonna.
got him killed with these Ascended, his
Yeah, well,
mouth.
it is what it
But
is.
I feel like that would be it's like us when we're faced with people thinking they're something.
Oh, and Cass gave Poppy his blood to heal, and despite it just being a lump on the back of her head, like it would have been fine, but he didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he says, "But I refuse to allow your body to be scarred again." And she
Yeah.
says, "You say that like you mean it." And he says, "Because I do." Ugh, I just love them. It's just mm, mm, mm.
And oh, in the beginning of 17, he's taking her out to see something, and he took her hand, and they feel a static
Uh,
charge. The only difference is this
yeah,
time Poppy feels it too, whereas before with
yeah.
the Wolven, she never felt it. So that's interesting. He goes sparks. And then they find the omen, what they think is an omen from the gods,
Ah, yes, the tree.
the
A
blood
blood
tree.
tree. Sorry. Blood tree. Forgot the word blood there.
Trying to see if
Um,
they said,
Omen that the gods are watching, that even though they still slumber, they are signaling that a great change is still coming, and they're all like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad
mm-hmm.
thing? Like, murmur.
And it's where Lord Cheney had found her. And I like that they emphasize that it's not like the sapling of a tree, it's like a full grown, has been here for years kind of tree.
I wish my plants would grow that fast, but evidently it's fine.
Mine go the opposite direction than up. They wither and die.
Weather.
Yep. Oh, and this is where she went to heal the people in the Craven attack.
She said, who said this? Someone tells her, "You are a second daughter, not a maiden, but chosen nonetheless."
Mm-hmm. She gets told
Oh,
that a few
someone she's
times,
seen.
and it's like interesting.
Yep.
Interesting.
And then Cass says, "I shouldn't be surprised about what you're capable of, what you're willing to do, but I am. I'm always in awe of you." And
Then pulls her into
I love and her. But,
yeah.
you know.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Then we go into chapter 18.
Oh, this is where they come up. This is where he comes up with his idea. Well, he does it at the end of 17, but goes into 18. This is where the idea of just pretending comes up, where he's
Ugh.
Hawk and she's Poppy, and it's just them, and it's not none of this has happened. They're just them, and then they make out in the pantry, like quality, quality time.
Yeah, and then more allusion to Kieran and Castile's bond. And
Mm-hmm.
Poppy makes like a mental note. I really need to figure out more about this bond because like she just doesn't understand how Kieran knows so
Yeah,
much
it's like,
about Cass and how he's feeling and like
do
stuff
they
like that.
mind read? Like, can he sense things? Like, yeah, I would be concerned about that too. Like, I'd be like, what if all the stuff we're doing does he know?
Oh, and then she learns that Lord Cheney is still alive.
Being safe for her, and Kieran kept a good close watch on him.
Yep, she asks that he doesn't speak now, and Kieran goes, "I tore out his tongue. He annoyed me." I just
And they're
love
just
him,
like,
dude.
okay then. Oh my gosh, I put, where is it? I said I said in the show notes, I said, do you think Kieran also ate the tongue? Like,
Ugh, probably.
went into woven form and just had a little snack.
And then we get more background on the bond and how when
Mhm.
Castile was captured in a way, like he was super sick, and that not many Wolven are bonded due to the small numbers after the war.
Can
Um,
you imagine 50 years of being so sick that you could hardly
hmm,
eat or drink or you couldn't get up? Like, that
I'm
speaks
only
to
28,
Kieran's
so
strength.
no.
That speaks to Kieran's strength too of what he had to go through because of that bond. Like someone he's
Also
bonded
true.
to since birth, and he can't do anything but lie there helplessly, not knowing what's going on. Like that feels like a hell all in itself.
Yeah, and Kieran says the bond is an oath that requires that I obey him and protect him, even at the cost of my own life. Nothing alive today supersedes those bonds. And she goes, and will he do the same for you? And he says he would. It's not required, but all elementals who are bonded would.
Yeah. And they say
Uh,
not many are bonded because of the uneven numbers from the
oh,
wars.
and
Like,
Delano isn't bonded. I enjoyed that you put that note in there.
I'll take Delano. Yep.
Same though.
Yep.
What I really respected from Poppy in this moment is after that whole thing, the kid died. Um, and she chiseled more names onto the
Yeah.
walls in the chamber.
I respect that she put Mr. Tolis's name on there because she could have just left him out because he tried to kill her too, but she understood his circumstances and his mindset and where he was and felt that he needed to be honored too for what he did for his family.
Ugh, I love this book so much. Oh,
Me too.
I love this book so much.
Uh
Your show notes correct me up. So Poppy's having more nightmares again. You know, they're Castile really is doing the most here.
mhm. I think that it's so important, like how much this comforting he's giving her because she didn't have that for years because she had it with Ian and then she got moved from the capital and she had no one. She was just spending those nights of those nightmares alone, having to get up and explore the city just to do something else. And here she is, she has someone that's actually willing to like hold her and soothe her and let her just feel what she needs to feel. And oh, I just I as someone who like has those feelings sometimes, I just imagine how nice that feels to have that when you haven't for so long.
Especially when your relationship is so not on the rocks, but it's just like there's just so many unknowns in this situation with them that like she's still comforted by his
Mhm.
company despite it all. Just
Yeah,
says volumes to me.
because she thinks it's fake, but here he is doing the most real of real things for her. It's great.
It
And
is
then they
great.
leave. She does not know how to act like she's in love with him.